Hello and welcome to our final webinar class on spring detox, spring Candida detox. And you guys, I'm so proud of everybody. You guys are working so hard and you're doing such a great job. And I just want to encourage you, even though this is our last class, I want to encourage you to be aware that this is going to be continuing for the next few more weeks, that you're going to be dealing with the Candida. I'm still available. You can reach me through the Healthy app and we can support each other through that. And if you're having difficulties, please, by all means, make an appointment. We can do an appointment using our telehealth conferencing, just like we're doing with this, only live, or you can come into the office if you're local. So I really encourage you to keep on going. Don't give up now. You have made it past the hardest part, and I'm so proud of everybody's progress. It's been wonderful to watch you and hear the comments about how well you're feeling now. The cravings are gone. You're really starting to have some energy coming back, and just real exciting. Some people are sleeping better. Just really exciting to see this. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to cover today, and it being our last class, I want to make sure I get all the extra pieces in that we might have missed through the week. And so let me go ahead and just switch you over, share my screen, and then switch you over to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen and I'll start the PowerPoint presentation so that you can see that. Hopefully it will come up. There it comes. All right, so this is our fourth class of our Spring Candida Detox webinar, and there's lots and lots to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. Just real quick, we want to recap what we discussed last week. We talked about reading labels. How are you guys doing reading the labels? We talked about so many different parts of the label. Just want to remind you to look at the sodium, the sugar as well, and the serving sizes, but really get down into those ingredients. Like, it might show that it only has so many grams of sugar, but if you get down in the ingredients, you might find other things that are sugar. And so really keep an eye on what's inside of the foods that you're eating, and as much as possible, eat fresh. It's just healthier than to buy things that are processed. Run away from the processed foods as much as possible. All right. We talked about how stress affects our bodies. That could be a class all in and of itself. There's a lot of information. You could Google search it yourself if you wanted to. There's a lot. Just emotional stress, relationship stress can cause serious health issues. So we talked a little bit about that last week. Be cognizant, be aware of that. And we talked about self-talk, and I hope everybody had a chance to do the worksheet and kind of see maybe areas that you are maybe not quite talking and in positive ways to yourself. And our goals last week were, of course, to finish or do that self-talk worksheet. But also to start working on your pantry cleanup. Look in your pantry, find those things, and I hope each and every one of you have started doing this, just really looking at those labels and saying, yeah, you know what, I've got to find somebody who'll eat this because I really need to stay away from it. And so does the rest of the family. Most of the people who take my class, the Candida class, are moms. And moms, you are the ones, you're the decision makers for the grocery lists and for the pantry and for the lunches and the dinners that are being made and the breakfast. And so you guys have, there's a lot on your shoulder, but you have an opportunity to really make a difference in the health of your family. So I really encourage you to go through the pantry and kind of start changing out some of the items. And, if you want to have some chips, change from the not so good for you chips over to something that's a little healthier. But remember, if you're on a budget and you're strapped for extra money, if you're buying processed foods and snacks in like a difference between Walmart and Whole Foods, your cost is going to increase substantially. So I really recommend that we learn to eat natural whole foods for our snacks. You know, if you absolutely need to have a snack, get some carrots and make some kefir dip, which we're going to talk about today. Do that because I really feel like it would be a better snack for you and it's a lot less expensive. So I really encourage that. I hope everybody had a chance to look at the meditation apps online. I did see that a few of you were looking at those meditation apps and you found some. Some of you were like, yeah, it's not really working. Let me encourage you. Everything that you do is going to take work on the front end when you're first learning. So a person who's a basketball player, they don't just jump out there the first day and say, I'm going to go throw this bat. I'm going to go be on a basketball team, and they've never played before. If you have a marathon coming up, you don't say, hey, I'm going to go run this marathon, but you haven't run in 10 years. You have to work on it. You have to build up to get prepared for that. And so with the meditation, it's the same thing. You just need to practice every day. Just make it a goal that every day you're going to practice meditation. And after a while, you'll really enjoy it. And you'll find that it's no longer work. It's something that you enjoy doing and it's pleasurable and it's not work anymore. So just keep trying. Don't give up. All right. Just because this is the end of our workshop doesn't mean this is the end. It just means this is the first stage and you're in the process of this first stage to get to the next stage, to make changes, lifelong changes in your diet and your lifestyle. So how is that exercise coming? I see some of you are on the treadmill. I've got a couple that are using a stationary bike, and I've got a couple that are going off to Planet Fitness or one of the local exercise places. And a few of you are just taking walks a couple times a week, which is great. It's a great start. All right. And finally, as I said before, just, if you haven't had a chance to think about what your self-talk is and realize some things, do the worksheet and be aware that this is something you could probably do every month. Just go over and answer those questions to yourself every month because it'll help you identify new things that you may have not realized in the past that you were doing that could sabotage your progress and your success in moving forward with your health. All right, so let's jump in. Today we're going to be talking about the microbiome. That's the bacterial or microorganisms that live in our body. And we're going to be talking about fermenting. And so I wanted to just start with what the microbiome is. So our microbiome is the microorganisms that live inside of our body that help us digest our food. It helps us stay healthy, keeps our immune system strong. I mean, it does 100 things. We cannot live without these symbiotic creatures living in us. They are what keep us moving in the forward direction and keep our health up. How do we get a microbiome? Well, it starts at birth. When a baby is in the uterus, the newborn's digestive tract is quickly colonized by the microorganisms from the mother. So this is good news, but it's also bad news because there's a lot of moms out there who don't realize they need to get their gut healthy before they have their pregnancy. If their gut is not healthy, then the baby is not getting a healthy microbiome, and then the baby is born with a poor immune system, poor gut biome, really not a healthy individual for digesting the foods and the things that they eat. And you get a lot of allergies and things like that in these babies. So each individual has a unique group of tens of trillions of bacteria, 10 times more than you have cells in your body. It's kind of like a fingerprint. So each time a person has a microbiome, each person is individual. Now, there are continuous microbiomes from generation to generation because, as I said, it passes down from the mother to the children. But as we'll find out in a little bit, our environment changes that microbiome in our body. There are more than 10 trillion bacterial cells in our body. There are more than 3 million microbial genes in our gut alone. That's 150 times more genes than our human genome. There are over 1,000 different known bacterial species that can be found in the human gut biome. Not now, in the individual person, there's about 150 to 175 predominant microbacteria that live in our gut. But each environmental change can change the predominant species. And so there are over 1,000 species that our body, or strains that our body can choose from to fit the current situation, our current environment. Okay. Now, as we mentioned, the environment causes our microbiome to change. So one thing that causes our microbiome to evolve is our age. Throughout our entire lifetime, this microbiota, the microbiota in our gut, is changing, shifting, adjusting, dealing with whatever's happening, different results according to environmental influences, whether it's the types of foods that you're eating, whether it's stress. It just constantly is evolving and changing from birth all the way to old age. And so it's really important for us to realize that sometimes things happen, circumstances happen. Maybe you've been on an antibiotic. Maybe you've had a lot of Candida overgrowth. Maybe you've just been extremely stressed. And those things affect the microbiome. And so being able to identify, hey, I don't know that my microbiome is healthy. Let me make sure that I'm eating foods that are rich in probiotics. So although the composition of healthy people, the composition of microbiome in healthy people are similar, they are still very highly personalized in every individual. And again, they're largely determined by your environment and your diet. I'll give you an example. Japanese people can digest seaweed and soy because it's part of their daily diet. Now, they have a very special group of microbiota that they have acquired from marine bacteria. And that microbiota that's in their gut is very specific to digesting soy and digesting seaweeds. That doesn't mean that here in the US, that those same Japanese people who have maybe moved here have the same composition. Because honestly, once they move here, if their diet changes, that entire microbiota system changes and conforms and evolves to what they're eating here in the US. I heard a story once where a young man had come from Africa who was living and eating indigenous foods in Africa. He moved here to the United States to go to college. At the end of 4 years, he was very, very sick young man. And he went back home before starting his master's level program. He went back home and basically the doctors there said your microbiome is a mess, and it's because you've been eating processed foods and not eating a healthy diet. He was eating a standard American diet, which if you take the first letter of each of those words, it spells sad. He was eating a sad diet in the United States. So he was under stress, which affects our microbiome. He was eating tons of processed food. You know, he was a college student. He was living in the dorms, eating lots of processed food. When he went home, he stayed home for a little while through the summer, and I think the first semester of his master's degree. He didn't go until the spring semester, just to get his stomach and his gut back into a basic healthy format. Once he was able to come back to the U.S., he knew he needed to be careful with what he ate so that he, even in his high stress time of secondary college years, postgraduate college years, he was able to keep his gut healthy for that 2-year time frame. unlike what had happened in his first 4 years in his undergrad program. So I just, there's just some real interesting things that happen when we, with our microbiome from the environment, and how quickly it can change and make us very sick if we are not aware of it. Finally, when the microbiome, although it's very adaptable to change, when it has difficulty changing, as with this young man, it becomes out of balance. And that out of balance microbiome is called dysbiosis. It's a big fancy word that means that the microbiome is not healthy in your gut. Dysbiosis can lead, or a microbiome that's not doing well, can lead to bowel diseases, allergies, yeast infections, obesity, and diabetes, and even eventually to heart disease and death. So it's really a critical thing that is overlooked over and over by the medical profession. Although I do believe that they're just now starting to see, hey, I think we need to start putting people on some probiotics. So I guess that's a good start. But it's not always enough, especially if a person is very, very sick from their biome being a mess. All right. So the first part of our microbiome is we have these bacteria, and they need to be fed. So the first thing we need to be aware of is fiber. And we talked about fiber last week or week before last, about, the soluble and insoluble fiber and how important it is for us to have a healthy gut. But it's also important to feed the little beasties that live inside of us, the microbiota. So prebiotics, you can buy prebiotics in the store, but honestly, it's just really healthy food that has a specific kind of fiber, or in this case, there are 4 very basic fibers: inulin, oligosaccharides, fructooligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. These fibers, very specific fibers, in specific foods, and I'll share that food list or some of those foods with you in a moment, are really important because they support the digestive health by getting through the small intestine and into the large intestine, and they're able to feed the large intestine bacteria. So really, really important. They increase the friendly bacteria in the gut. They help with the digestive problems. They boost your immune system. They improve metabolic health. They help prevent certain cancer or certain diseases. And most of this is found in food. Now, there is a concern that sometimes cooking the food can alter the fiber, the types of fiber. So you do also want to try to consume foods that have high fiber of these fibers in raw form. That's one of the reasons that we encourage you to do the green drink, because it is a raw form and you do get the fiber. Unlike juicing, where you don't get the fiber, this actually provides the fiber, which helps to feed the gut health, okay, the probiotics or the microbiome. Every prebiotic is a fiber, but not every fiber is a prebiotic. There are lots of different fibers. These are soluble fibers primarily. The insoluble fibers, of course, do not feed the microbiome. Okay. So some foods, you have a longer list in your materials, but some foods that have prebiotics are things like dandelion greens, Jerusalem artichokes, garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, and bananas. And like I said, there's a longer list in your material, so I encourage you to look at that list. But the information I'm going to share with you now about these individual items is also in the materials. I wanted to share these because I wanted to kind of talk about what's in them and how best to eat them. Not necessarily cooking them, but what they can be used for as far as nutritional value. So dandelion greens, please, please, please go in the backyard, pick up your dandelion greens and clean them well, because if the dog has been walking around, they may not be clean. Don't go by the side of the road and pick them up, because they've gathered up all the exhaust from the cars. We have a little patch in the front of our house that grows dandelions all the time. I don't plant them, they just grow there. So we'll go out and gather, especially in the springtime, all the wonderful dandelion greens. Dandelion greens are high in that one fiber we talked about earlier, inulin. They are also diuretic, and anti-inflammatory. They help with antioxidants as an antioxidant, and they've been known to have anti-cancer properties, as well as they lower cholesterol. So really good. You can throw these in a salad and eat them raw. Sometimes they're a little, if they're too young, they might have or too old, they might have a little bit of a bitter taste, but they're not bad. And I usually just use them as a salad. You can cook them, but again, once you cook, it may start to destroy some of the inulin, but these are really high in inulin. All right. Jerusalem artichokes are also called sunchokes. There's a picture of those just directly underneath the greens that you see there in our picture. Jerusalem artichokes, they're a root. They strengthen the immune system and prevent certain metabolic disorders. They're high in thiamine and potassium, so they're really, really healthy. Have some ingredients that, some vitamins and minerals that are really good for us. We have them growing. We did plant those. We have them growing in the back in our little garden, and they're really cool. They grow real tall like sunflowers, and they have a bright yellow flower about the size of your hand, maybe a little bit bigger, and they're at the top, and they're beautiful to see growing. My animals on my farm love the tops. And in the fall, we dig the bottoms and we take out the Jerusalem artichokes, and we'll freeze them or whatever. You can chop them up. You can put them in soup. You can eat them. You can slice them thin and put them on a salad. They're really, really good. And here's the thing that's really cool about this. These, once you've dug them up, you will miss some of these. So they'll come back year after year. So they grow from the root. And if you don't dig them all up, they'll just keep coming back, and they multiply like crazy. And some people say that they get so overwhelmed with the Jerusalem artichokes, they don't know what to do, because they'll just keep growing and multiplying and growing. So they're kind of like a bulb flower, where you just plant them once and you ignore them, and they just keep coming back, and you have to dig them up every once in a while, separate them. It's kind of like that. Anyway, all right, talking about bulbs, garlics and onions and leeks are all great. Now, leeks aren't a bulb, leeks are more of the tops, but the garlics and the onions are really good. They promote the bifidobacterium that live certain types of bacteria that live in your gut. They prevent bad bacteria from growing, so they actually become like an antibiotic. Even though they don't kill all bacteria, they do help prevent the growth of bad bacteria. They're antioxidant, they're antimicrobial, and they both contain oligosaccharides, FOS, which strengthens our gut flora and helps to break down fat in our gut and in our body. They also boost the immune system, and they're just really, really healthy and beneficial to our diet. And you can see I've got a couple of pictures there of multicolored onions, more colors the better, and some beautiful garlic bulbs there. I think these might be the elephant ones or something. All right, so let's talk a minute about leeks. I love to make a soup with leeks and maybe some Jerusalem artichokes or some white sweet potatoes. That makes the best potato soup, and it's so good. You would be surprised, but it's also very healthy. Great for boosting your immune system. Not quite as good as the immune boosting soup recipe that I gave you, but just a really nice potato soup. If you want that potato soup, comfort soup, but you know that those white potatoes aren't good for you, use the white sweet potatoes with a little bit of Jerusalem artichoke and some leeks. It's an amazing soup. All right, so what do leeks do? They boost our good bacteria. They help break down fat, just like the onions and the garlic. They're high in flavonoids, which support your body's response to oxidative stress. So if you're dealing with oxidative stress, leeks are your friend. And they're really high in vitamin K. And so that's really good for your blood and for clotting and different things like that. So really, really healthy for you. Asparagus, as you can see down in the bottom, we have a little bit of asparagus down here. Asparagus is high in several of the types of fibers that we talked about earlier. They're high in antioxidants. They're anti-inflammatory. So enjoy your asparagus. Now you can cook the asparagus. Of course, I would recommend you cook the asparagus, but you can cook the asparagus just lightly. Put them in a steamer and and steam them lightly, and it won't destroy all of the inulin and all of the fiber. But they're all very good for you, as well as being high in vitamin C and several other vitamins. And finally, not the last thing, but the last thing we're going to talk about in class today are bananas. So there's a little bit of information that I think is important, and people in the US don't really eat green bananas, but I think it's important, and this is why I have both yellow and green bananas in our picture today. There are benefits to green bananas that I think they only know about in Samoa. We had Samoan neighbors, and they used to cook green bananas all the time. They were delicious. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about the benefits and the drawbacks to both green bananas and yellow bananas. Your green bananas are high in something called resistant starch. The resistant starch doesn't convert to sugar quickly. So it's great for people that have diabetics or have sugar issues. So the sugar content is very, very minimal in the green bananas as opposed to the yellow ones or the ripe ones. They are both a prebiotic and a probiotic. So they have extra help for our gut. They help to absorb nutrients better, and they are particularly good at helping our bodies absorb calcium. So if you have calcium deficiency, or if you have some bone issues, eating green bananas is actually very helpful. Sometimes I've heard that people use them, a small amount of them, to help with stopping stomach upset. So that's, I've heard both. I've heard they'll make you have a stomach ache, and I've heard that they'll help with stomach upset. So you'll have to try that for yourself. Some of the drawbacks is that they don't have quite as much antioxidant effect as the ripe bananas. And sometimes they can cause a little bit of bloating or gas, that stomach upset we were talking about, because of the higher resistant starch content. So that's the pros and cons of green bananas. Try one. We used to just fry them in a little coconut oil, just slice them up, fry them in a little coconut oil, steam them a little bit. They don't take long to cook. You want them soft, and they really taste good. They're more savory. They're not sweet. So you'll want to put maybe a little bit of Himalayan salt on them, or something like that. They're really good. Okay, so yellow bananas, the benefits, of course, are that they're easier to digest because they have less of that resistant starch, but that also makes them higher in sugar. For those of you that have to watch your sugar content, they digest quickly. They have higher levels than green bananas of antioxidants, because as they ripe, their antioxidant levels increase. The drawbacks are that as they ripen, some of the micronutrients also lose their benefit. They get less and less in the banana as it ripens. So to lessen the loss of vitamins and nutrients and minerals in the bananas, you can store them in the refrigerator before they start turning dark, so they don't continue to ripen when they're in the refrigerator. Now, the outside of the banana turns black, and nobody likes that, so you don't want to send it to school with your kids if it's in a black banana wrapper, but the inside will be the same ripeness as it was when you put it in there. They don't continue to ripen in the refrigerator very much. So that's a good thing. That's good news. It also helps to hold in the nutrients, the vitamins and the minerals. And another drawback is that they're high in sugar content. They are in our 20% list on our sugar conversion chart. So we want to really be mindful. They're high in potassium. They're wonderful. They've got lots of potassium, and they're really healthy for us, but not too much. Okay. And maybe we get them a little greener and not quite as ripe. All right. So moving along, let's talk about now, we talked about prebiotics. Let's talk about probiotics now. So probiotics are the good bacteria that are in our gut that help keep the natural balance of organisms, the microflora in our intestines, keep us balanced and healthy. A healthy immune digestive tract contains around 400 types of probiotic bacteria that reduce the growth of harmful bacteria and promote a healthy digestive system. And of course, Of those 400 strains, you have about 150 to 170 predominant strains. The largest group of probiotic bacteria in our gut is lactic acid bacteria. The lactic acid helps with preventing infections. It helps with diarrhea. It helps control our immune response. All of the bacteria do these things, but lactic acid bacteria, which is the majority, they help with our immune response and inflammation. And the best probiotic foods are found in best probiotics are found in fermented foods, because many times they provide both the prebiotic and the probiotic, as in with the bananas or other fruits and vegetables. So it's really, really important to have fermented foods with our meals every day. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's not a meal replacer. It's really something like a relish on the side to give us an opportunity for probiotics in our gut while we're eating. So let's look and see what fermenting is. So before refrigerators, back 200 years ago, maybe longer now, we didn't have refrigerators. We didn't have a way to store our food unless it was really, really cold, and we stored it outside in the ice. I've done that when I lived in West Virginia. We used to put our food out in the wintertime and it would stay cold like a refrigerator. Sometimes they would build ice houses to keep stuff in, and that was the old-time refrigerator. But many times people would ferment the fresh fruits and vegetables because they wouldn't last long in a cold house or an ice house. And so they would enhance so many good bacteria and vitamins in this fermentation. So let's talk about, so most everybody knows about pickles, okay? The old pickle barrel wasn't filled with vinegar. It was fermented cucumbers to keep the cucumbers healthy. Another one that we're probably familiar with is sauerkraut. And many people say, oh, I don't like sauerkraut. Well, it depends on how it's made. Vinegar-based sauerkraut doesn't have really good flavor. But if you create a sauerkraut, and I've got 2 recipes that I'm going to share with you in the materials, 2 recipes for sauerkraut that are just really good. So, and they're not horribly sour. I do a Bavarian sauerkraut and a silver dollar sauerkraut, and they're both very, very good and don't taste like what you buy at the store. I promise that what you can make is not like what you buy at the store. It is so superior. And you can adjust the flavor to make it palatable for you and your family. And that makes a big difference. So the beneficial bacteria that grow in this process produce numerous helpful enzymes, as well as antibiotic and anti-carcinogenic substances. They enhance digestibility. They increase vitamin levels in the foods. They promote a good, healthy gut flora. They produce hydrogen peroxide in the body, as well as benzoic acid, which both benefit your body in many, many ways. And I won't get into that because we don't have time. But just, if you want to look it up, I have some spelling errors. It should say produces and not produces, but forgive my spelling errors. I've got a couple of typos through the presentation. But really, the benefits are enormous. And I can't tell you how much they help with chelating heavy metals. If you have heavy metals in your body, they'll help chelate heavy metals. Benefits are amazing. So we're going to learn about fermenting. So fermenting around the world, some of the ferments you may have heard of are, of course, kefir, sauerkraut, pickles, beets, salsa, kimchi, relish. Relish used to be a ferment. Chutneys, kvass, that's spelled wrong. It's Kvaas. If you want to look it up online, it's Kvaas. Kombucha isn't on there. I was trying to think. Yogurt is a ferment. Cheeses are fermented milk. That's one of the reasons that they are able to stay long periods of time, because it's milk that was used fermented to keep them preserved for longer periods of time. All right. And so there's lots of different ferments from around the world. Salsa in the Central Americas, they didn't want the tomatoes and the peppers and the onions to go, so they would ferment them. They would put them in a jar with a little bit of salt, and it would ferment over time, and it would get sour, but it would be so good to put as a relish on your food and on our tacos and, all of the foods that we eat. Delicious, delicious. We used to make salsa and sell it at our farmer's market. We'd grow the ingredients and we'd make the salsa and sell it at the farmer's market. And we had like 3 different degrees. So it'd be really like mild, medium, and really hot. And people bought it constantly. We couldn't hardly keep it in. And every week we were fermenting another big giant batch of salsa to sell. We also did sauerkraut and people loved it. It's delicious. And once your body gets used to the flavors of the ferment, it really is, you start to crave it. You start wanting it. Your body's like, yes, I need this. So good for us. And so I want to encourage you to do this. We're going to talk about this now for the rest of our class. We're going to talk about this fermenting and things that we can do. And I'll also encourage a few recipes or share some recipes with you. All right. So the top 5 fermented foods that most people are aware of are kefir, which is in the top middle picture. The white stuff there is kefir. Those are kefir grains and some kefir milk. Kombucha, which you can see over underneath me on the side. You can see the SCOBY floating in the tea. Fermented veggies, which is the center picture in the center of the screen. And those are beautiful colors. I love the fermented veggies that they've done. Some raw soft cheese. So I think this is probably a mozzarella cheese down here on the bottom in the picture. Raw soft cheeses usually have a couple of different probiotics, which are pretty good for us. Not as much as the kefir, kombucha, and the fermented vegetables, though. And yogurt. Now I want to talk a minute about yogurt. I'm going to go back and talk about the health benefits of these, but I want to talk a minute about yogurt. Yogurt, there's all kinds of yogurt on the market, and we need to really be careful. We need to make sure it's organic, or at least from pasture-fed animals if we can, if that's in any way, shape, or form possible. Goat and sheep yogurt is better than cow yogurt, but it's still good. It's almost every yogurt comes, if you look at the back, it comes with a ton of sugar. And we really need to watch the sugar content because, or some of them will say there's no sugar, but it has artificial sweeteners in it. So you want to stay away from those as well, as we've already learned that those things are very dangerous for us. But I'm going to tell you that there are a few, organic Greek yogurts that are plain. You can add a couple pieces, some berries or something to that, or some low sugar conversion fruits, and have a really nice, tasty food if you just buy a plain or a vanilla yogurt. Another thing that I've been suggesting to people, this is not grass-fed and it is not organic, but if you absolutely just can't afford, for some of my clients, this is just not affordable to go to Whole Foods and buy expensive organic yogurt. There is a brand called 000. It's by Dannon, that it's not organic. So the milk has, been raised by God only knows what these poor feed animals have been given. But there's no artificial sweeteners. There's no sugar added. It does have sugar in it, but it's all natural. So I really encourage, if you can't afford to buy the yogurt from, the organic yogurt, then if you're going to get yogurt, get the 000. It's better than nothing, and it's not quite as high in the sugars, and it's healthier than the others, than the stuff that you can buy over at Walmart. All right, so most of the yogurts have 1 or 2 strains of probiotics, so they're not even as good as the other probiotic things that we are going to talk about in the top 5 fermented foods. All right, so I want to talk about each of these. Oh, wait a minute. Let me do this. So kefir has vitamin B12, K2, calcium, magnesium, biotin, folate, enzymes, and probiotics. It helps boost your immune system, heals irritable bowel syndrome, improves bone density, fights allergies, improves digestion, and kills Candida. Yes. Okay. Kombucha It has B vitamins. It contains the vinegar that you would need if you don't want to do the apple cider vinegar. You can actually use kombucha because it creates its own healthy vinegar with the mother. Acetic acid, gluconic acid, lactic acid, enzymes, and probiotics. It supports the immune system, increases energy, improves digestion, detoxes our body, and helps with weight loss. It reduces joint pain and possibly prevents cancer. Fermented vegetables are high in dietary fiber, which are really good, important pieces that we've just learned about. Vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K, B vitamins, iron, copper, calcium, sodium, manganese, magnesium. It's high in antioxidants. Fermented vegetables boost the digestive system. It aids in circulation, it fights inflammation, it strengthens your bones, it reduces cholesterol. And let me jump in there and say, and it's a prebiotic and a probiotic, because you get the fiber, all of the good things that your body needs for your microbiome. Excellent, excellent way to go. All right, cheese. Several probiotics, including Thermophilus, Bifidus, and Bulgaricus, and Acidophilus. I know, easy for me to say, right? Probiotics help. These probiotics are very specific, and they help with help heal the digestive system. So they're really good for you. They help with neurological disorders, mental health issues, boost your immune system, and also kill bad bacteria. Yogurt, again, I kind of talked about that. Just, make sure it has live cultures. Make sure that it doesn't contain more than 7 grams of sugar per serving. Make sure it doesn't contain any artificial sugars. And if you can find some that's healthy, it will improve your metabolic profile, your cardiometabolic profile, your metabolism. It improves blood pressure, and it has been shown to improve triglyceride levels. So excellent, excellent sources of probiotics. All right, so kefir, we talked about what it did. This is a picture of kefir grains. Basically, the milk kefir instructions that I sent you are that you take the grains, you put them in a glass jar, you pour milk on top of them, leave them on the cupboard. They like, 75 degrees mostly. So you just leave them on the cupboard, cover them lightly with a cloth or something that will let them breathe, and let them sit for 24 hours. Now, if you need kefir grains, I do have them at the office. If you're out of the local area, I'll be happy to send some to you in the mail for the cost of the postage. I don't charge for kefir grains. Usually they grow and grow and grow, and people bring them back to me in Ziploc bags, in a little bit of milk to keep them alive, and we put them in the freezer. So they do last, and I encourage you, as they grow and they get too many of them in there, that you put them in a Ziploc bag with a little milk and stick them in the freezer. The kefir then is strained off. Kefir does not like metal. They don't like to be mashed. So I use a plastic strainer. I pour them through, but I keep them in a glass jar. I pour the kefir from my jar through a strainer. The kefir grains are in the strainer. The milk comes through to the bottom. The kefir milk, or the kefir, is what I use to make all the recipes that we talk about that we'll be talking about in a little bit. The grains then get put back in the jar, milk poured on top, cover, leave it sitting on the cupboard for another day. Now, some of you may not need to make kefir every day. In our house, there's only 2 of us, so we don't make kefir every day. So what I do, going back to the process, I pour the milk on the kefir grains, I cover them, and I put them in the refrigerator for 2 days. On the second day, I pull them out, put them on the cupboard, let them sit 24 hours, and then I strain them, put the kefir grains back in the jar, cover them with milk, and put them in the refrigerator for 2 days. So you can see here, this way I'm only making kefir. I'm making enough kefir for the several days, but I'm only making kefir every few days. Otherwise, I'm overwhelmed in kefir. But I will tell you, we've used the kefir for our animals, the chickens, the dogs, the cats. they need to have these probiotics too, and it really makes them healthy. It makes their skin, their hair shiny, and they do wonderfully with these probiotics as well. Okay, now there are two types of kefir. The type that I was just talking about is called milk kefir. You can use milk or coconut milk. It usually contains 30 to 55 different strains of probiotics. It has a strong tart taste, and it's great to use for milk-based recipes. And there's a cheesecake recipe and a recipe for ranch dressing that you'll be getting with the materials, and those recipes use the milk kefir. Water kefir uses different strains. I do not have them. They are the least amount of strains for a fermented food, and so I don't recommend it, although a lot of people do use it. So water kefir has 10 to 25 strains. You can use water or coconut water. They have a very mild flavor, and they're great for water-based recipes, but the kombucha that we're going to talk about in a minute are also good for water-based recipes. Now, I want to talk just briefly about lactose intolerance. Now, if you have a milk allergy, of course, you want to stay away from milk. But if you have lactose intolerance, which is not the same as a milk allergy, if you have lactose intolerance, the kefir will help correct a lactose intolerance. My husband was lactose intolerant, and he began drinking the kefir, and he didn't have any problems with it. And what he ended up finding out is now he can eat or drink milk. He doesn't just drink milk, but he can eat things and drink stuff with milk in it now, and it doesn't give him the intolerance problems that he used to have. So it can actually help correct lactose, or improve at least your lactose intolerance if you have that. So the milk kefir is really, really good. The second one of our 5 top used is kombucha. Kombucha has 25 to 35 strains of probiotics, so they're really good. You can use the kombucha in place of vinegar. You can use the kombucha in place of the apple cider vinegar, or vinegar in a salad dressing. You can use the kombucha tea with a little bit of olive oil and some seasonings and make a really nice vinaigrette. So take advantage of that. It's also really fun to drink. We second ferment it with fruit juice that we've juiced, and it makes like a bubbly soda. And so really, really fun to drink. It can replace soda pop if that's what you're wanting. It's not as sweet, but it's very, very good and so healthy for us. All right, so it boosts the immune system. It has cancer-fighting potential. It improves our digestion, promotes healthy gut, increases our energy, promotes joint health. It's a pain management tool, and it increases our metabolism. So all kinds of great benefits. We also usually carry some of this in our office if you don't have any or need to get some. You can also make it from scratch. So I didn't share this with you, but if you want, you can send a little note to me in the chat, and I can give you the recipe. I can share with you the recipe on how to make this from scratch. And it's just, you buy a couple of ingredients from the store, and you can create your own kombucha mother or SCOBY, which is what's floating there on top. This is made with tea. You can use black tea. We don't prefer the black tea. We prefer the green tea just because it's not as strong of a flavor. But you can use white tea, black tea. I have a client, I have a client who buys the tea, the specialty teas with the different flavors, and she uses that for her kombucha, so that when she takes the kombucha liquid off, it's called liquor. When she takes the liquor off, it actually tastes like these fancy teas, and so it's really, really healthy and really tasty. Great to have with a meal. All right, so fermenting our vegetables is called lactofermentation. You have an entire article on lactofermentation. When you ferment your vegetables, you can get anywhere from 20 to 200 different strains of probiotics, especially if you use some of the whey from the milk kefir. You get this just hugely enhanced, quick and I'll say quick, fermenting takes probably 3 to 4 weeks to get it fermented far enough that it's actually fermented. And when you add the whey from the kefir, from the milk kefir, the whey actually creates a sped up kind of a jump start to your probiotics, to your ferment. And in a week, your foods are fermented. So your veggies are fermented. So I really encourage you to get the kefir, the milk kefir. Even if you don't think you're going to like milk kefir, the whey is amazing. Okay, it can do so many things. You can put it in soups. You can do just so many things with the whey and really boost your probiotic foods. So I really encourage the milk kefir. Also, and I didn't mention this, the milk kefir, you can strain it and the whey comes down and you catch the whey and use it in your foods. But what you've strained, you can put seasoning in that and make like a cheese or a dip or a spread. It's really good. So you can play with the different flavors and come up with some really nice dips for your veggies or whatever. All right, so the fermented veggies enhance your digestibility. They increase the vitamin levels of the foods that you've fermented. They boost your immune system. They increase digestive enzymes because the enzymes are there. They aren't destroyed because the food hasn't been cooked. They have cancer-fighting potential, and they promote a healthy gut, of course. And the bonus is they give you both, as I said before, the prebiotics and the probiotics. So an excellent boost and a great thing to add to your meals. And what I used to do a class where I'd invite people and they would come and eat, and we would do a huge salad with all kinds of veggies, and then we would have relishes of different kinds of fermented foods, and so that everybody could try these different fermented foods. And some people said, you know what, we're just going to use the fermented foods as our salad dressing because they're so flavorful and they taste good. So just a thought. All right, so I want to briefly talk about soaking grains. We're not going to get in depth on this today, but I wanted to kind of talk about the reason for soaking your grains and your legumes. Most of the time we don't eat soaked grains or legumes in our current culture because everything is cooked fast. Everything is cooked in a pressure cooker and canned, and our grains are ground and then thrown right into our foods, or into our bread, or our made into flour, and it's not soaked. Soaking would be something like sourdough bread, where it sits for a couple of days and it starts to ferment a little bit. The reason that grains should be soaked is because they contain phytic acid, and soaking releases phytase, which breaks down the phytic acid. It's very simple. So phytic acid is found in plant foods, grains, seeds, nuts. The phytic acid is there to hold on to the minerals in the plants while the plants are growing. Unfortunately, if it's not broken down, it also hangs on to the minerals when it's in our bodies. And so our bodies can't absorb the minerals because the phytic acid is holding on to it and won't let go. Unfortunately, the phytic acid is not destroyed during the cooking process. Phytase, which is also found in those same plant foods, grains, seeds, and nuts, is necessary to break down the phytic acid in our digestive system. Unfortunately, when food is cooked, it destroys the phytase, which is necessary for us to be able to break down the phytic acid. All right, so what we recommend is, if you're going to make a food, make sure that you let it soak. It could be as simple as putting the wet ingredients with your flour and sitting in the refrigerator till the next day. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. But here is a key. Lactobacilli, together with warm water, catapults the phytase so that it can break down the phytic acid in as little as 12 hours. So here's what you can do. You can use some of the whey with some of the liquid ingredients in your recipe, put it into the flour, You don't have to finish, but put it into the flour, stick it in the refrigerator till the next day, and then finish making the food that you're making out of in your recipe. This will break down the phytic acid and increase the phytase so that you can actually absorb the minerals that are in the plant food, the grains that you're eating. So just a quick, this is a really neat thing. Traditionally created plant foods and whole grains normally would not have been an issue because they would let things sit and soak. We don't do that anymore. It naturally happens in our digestive system that it breaks down these things, but you have to have all of the pieces in order for our digestive tract to break it down to get a hold of the nutrients and specifically the minerals that are in the plant foods. So we'll not go any farther in this. I just wanted to share that. And if you have more questions, you're welcome to call and we'll talk further. All right. And because we only have a few minutes left, we're going to jump into the recipes. There are more recipes than this, but I'm going to talk just briefly about the kefir cheese. I don't know if I have a kefir cheese recipe in there, so I'm going to just kind of walk you through it. I don't have one that I can pop up to show you, but I'm going to tell you a real simple way. You take the kefir that you've strained off, you put it in a tea towel. I get them from the dollar store. You can buy the tea towels from the dollar store. They're just cotton towels. And put the milk in the towel, draw the towel up together so it's hanging, and hang that over a bowl. Okay, what I do is I hang it on the kitchen sink faucet. I hang it on the faucet and I put a bowl underneath and it drips down into the whey will drip down into the bowl. Now, you can decide how you want to use your whey. There's a ton of ideas, but save your whey. Don't get rid of it. Take the cheese, put it into a bowl, a clean bowl, and then spice it up. What are the spices you like? Put in a little cayenne if you like it spicy, some Cajun seasoning. Throw in some ranch dressing seasoning, there's a ranch dressing recipe, so you can look at those and season it up like ranch dressing. Throw in some herbs de Provence or some other herb combination with some garlic and a little bit of salt, and make it yours. You know the flavors that you like. Stir it all together, let it sit in the fridge for a couple hours so that all those flavors can blend, and you can put in chives, there's just unlimited options. And this is an awesome spread or dip that you can use with your veggies or whatever. And if you have found some healthy chips, send me a link and let me know what they are. And you can use it for chips, and it's a wonderful snack between meals or in the evening if you're starting to get a little hungry and you want to eat something that's healthy. This is it. This is the food to live for those snacks in between meals, because it's healthy. It's healthy for us, and it tastes good because you've made it to taste the way you want it to taste. Lasts for several weeks in the refrigerator, so you don't have to eat it all at once. But you can come up with some really good ideas. If you got a great recipe, send it to me. I'd love to share it with everyone else. All right, kefir ranch dressing. Just like I said earlier, straining off a little bit of the whey. The milk is a little bit liquidy, so kefir dressing, if you don't want it like super liquid, if you want it a little thicker, you might want to drain it a little bit. You don't have to, but I usually like to drain it just a little bit. Another thing that I'd like to do is I like to add some cream cheese to my ranch dressing, because it just makes it real smooth and gives it a great flavor. We add the cream cheese is a soft cheese. If you get raw cream cheese, you've got a double whammy for your probiotics. So you take the cream cheese and you mix it in and you put it in the seasonings, let it sit in the fridge. Great ranch dressing. Make it a little thicker, you can use it as a dip. Make it a little thinner, it's a dressing. Awesome, awesome. I'm going to talk about kvass because most people don't know what that is. Kvass is a ferment of fruits and berries. And the fruits and berries, once they're fermented, once they've completed their fermentation, if you use a little bit of that whey from your kefir, it speeds up the fermenting process. So it'll take about a week, maybe 5 days is all it takes to make. This stuff is amazing. You can throw a dash of this in your water. I know all of you are like, oh, I'm so sick of water. Throw a dash of this in your water and it just brightens your water. It gives it a wonderful flavor, and it just really helps palate that water that we're so sick of drinking day in and day out. Gives us a different thing to drink that just kind of brightens up our day and gives us all those good probiotics that come in the fermenting process. I gave you 2 sauerkraut recipes. One's a Bavarian kraut. It uses caraway seeds and a little bit of sugar. So, organic sugar is better. My favorite sauerkraut of the 2 recipes is the Silver Dollar Kraut. It actually uses apples. It's so good. So I would really encourage you to try this. It doesn't taste like, the sauerkraut from the store. It's really good. Neither of them do, actually. Both of them are non-traditional sauerkraut, in that they're not what we think of as what sauerkraut is. So try it, because you might have a surprise. And of course, it is sour, so it is sour. I also included, because I know we all have a sweet tooth and we need to be able to get that dessert in there at least once a week, I included a cheesecake recipe made with kefir, because you know what? We gotta have our cheesecake, okay? So I included that as well. And I just want to encourage you, try these recipes. Let me know how they go. Take a picture and share them with me in Healthy, because I would love to see them and see how they turned out for you. Really encourage you to try these. They're not gourmet recipes, but they are so good and they're healthy for you. And I just really encourage you to do them. Now, this is the big question that everybody asks. How do I know when I have beat this Candida thing? So I'm going to tell you, the very first thing you're going to notice if the Candida is starting to come back is that you're going to crave sugar and carbs. That's the thing you're going to notice. So watch for that. Because when the sugar and carb cravings go away, and most of you have said you're not craving those things anymore, when they're gone, that means that you're beating the Candida, that it's getting back under control. However, if you find that you're starting to crave the sugars or starting to crave the bread or the carbs, again, or the chips or whatever, fill in the blank, that even though you may not have the tongue coating, the Candida is getting overgrown in the gut. So before you get the coating on your tongue and that Candida goes systemic, when you start feeling or noticing those cravings, get it under control right away. So when the Candida is beat, most of your symptoms of whatever your health issues are, most of your symptoms will be gone. Foggy brain is a huge one. Poor elimination, allergies, headaches, sleep issues, fatigue. Now, it doesn't mean that all of those are specific to your Candida. Some of those symptoms may still be there and may remain due to other health issues. So you can look at the Candida symptoms chart from class 1, and you can check mark the ones that you had from the beginning and what's starting to go away. And when you see that a lot of them are starting to go away, you'll know that you're getting the Candida under control. But the key thing is those cravings. And the second key thing is to watch your tongue. When the coating on your tongue, and make sure you look way in the back, when the coating on your tongue is gone, in systemic cases of Candida, the Candida is no longer systemic. But it doesn't mean it's completely gone. And we don't ever really get rid of Candida. It's supposed to be there. But the overgrowth is controlled. It's not systemic. It's in the gut only, where it's supposed to be. That doesn't mean that the Candida is completely gone. It means that it's no longer systemic. It's not all through the body. It also doesn't mean that you don't have to be careful, because you may still be having some cravings. And if you start having those cravings, that means get back in, watch what you're eating, bring down the sugar amounts, bring down the processed foods. Now through all these classes, you know exactly what to do. And now I'm telling you what to look for. You don't have the problems anymore. All of a sudden, you start noticing that you're craving sugar or you're craving carbs. And you're like, that's my clue. Dr. Berry told me that's my clue. Let me look at my tongue. Nope, I don't have any systemic but let me get it now before it gets worse. Because I know if I let this go and I start feeding the Candida, it's going to turn into a systemic infection, and then we're going to have to start over. If you catch it early, it's easy. So let me tell you a little story about me, because I'm a culprit like everybody else. I was just going along, doing my thing, and my mom says, hey, you should try this ice cream. Okay, and I tried a little bit of the ice cream. Well, no, I didn't just try it. She went and bought me an entire container of this ice cream. And it was good, and I had a little bit of it in the evenings, and after about 5 days, it was gone. It was just a small container. After about 5 days of eating the little bit of this ice cream every night, the container was empty, and I did share some with my husband. I didn't eat an entire it wasn't even a half a gallon. It was a small container, but I didn't eat the whole thing. But I started feeling kind of yucky, and I thought, let me check. And I looked at my tongue, and sure enough, there was a little bit of white at the back. And I said, I got to stop. It took me about 5 days. No carbs, no sugars, 5 days. I'm back to eating healthy and doing what I want to do and eat what I want. The craving is gone again. The white coating is gone. Everything is back to where it didn't take me a month to get through this. It was a quick fix, and that's where you will be. But you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to the cravings. You have to pay attention to how you feel. If you notice any of the symptoms coming back, get back in there. Say, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 days. I'm going to not eat any processed foods, no carbs, no sugar. I'm going to just give me 5 days. You can do 5 days. 5 days is easy. You've just come through a whole 4 weeks. You can do 5 days and keep that Candida under control. All right. So let's look at what's next. So just getting the Candida under control may not be enough. We've reduced the Candida. That's our first step. The next step then is to rebuild the gut, and that's going to be our next class. Now, we don't have a webinar planned right now. It'll probably be this summer. But if you want to talk to me about rebuilding your gut, talk to me in the healthy chat, because I really would love to get you started on rebuilding your gut. Once your gut is healthy and you're absorbing healthy nutrients from your food, we can then begin to repair other issues or other metabolic concerns. And so if you haven't completely overcome all of your health issues by the time your gut's rebuilt, then we can start talking about the last 2 or 3 symptoms that you have and what you need to do to improve those areas of your health. And once we've done that third step, the final thing is a healthy you and staying healthy. And we can help you do this just through the telehealth seminars, through one-on-one on the computer, and through the Healthy Portal and the chat. We'd love to be there for you and walk with you through this entire new you, helping you with your lifestyles and staying up to date and keeping moving forward. And we'd love to be your accountability partner and your life coach and all of those things that you might need along the way. We do that for you. All right. And last but not least, we've got goals this week. So I'm not going to know unless you tell me in the chat if you've done these, but I hope that you try some of the recipes. They are so good. Start with the fruit kvass and add flavor to your water. It's simple to make. If you need kefir grains, give me a contact, shout out in the chat and let me know, and I'll send them to you. Keep the processed foods and sugar out of your diet. Just keep them out. Don't go back to them. I don't want to have you go through this class all over again because you didn't do it. Keep them out. Finish cleaning out your pantry. It's an ongoing process. Just keep working on it. Don't give up. Don't give up. This is just the beginning of your journey to health. This is just the first step. As we said a few minutes ago, you've got a couple of steps to go. But you know what? The hardest step is the first step. Once you get started, there's momentum. Your healthy gut is next. And once that gets healthy, then you'll be amazed at how you're feeling and the energy you have. And I really encourage you to continue moving forward, and please don't give up. If you need some encouragement, just talk to me in the chat and I'll be happy to encourage you. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us with our 4-week series. I encourage you to watch. I'm going to send out a quick freebie webinar, just a very short one that talks about the healthy gut. It's kind of a preview to getting your gut healthy, and maybe a few extra tips that you can use. Kind of bonus material. Probably won't have it for you for another week, but I'll get it to you. I'll send it to you individually a in a message in the healthy chat, and so you'll have a chance to watch that and get started on the next step, which is rebuilding your gut. All right, well, thanks everyone, and I applaud your success. You're all doing a wonderful job, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Bye-bye.